5 weeks in, we're at the penultimate round in what a gorgeous location. We are in Japan, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to multi-sprints here on RCI with the glittering Fuji circuit. And we were expecting rain. We were anticipating a bit of drizzle, but it looks like at the moment, clear skies mostly, bit of drizzle hitting the circuit. So I'm sure things will begin to pop off immediately. My name is Jack Mays, welcoming you back for another evening of racing, and I'm joined by, as been the theme, Mr. Adam Reed in the box with us here, and of course Ted Edwards. We'd be nowhere without him, giving us pretty pictures, sightly sounds, and all the good stuff. It's good to be back after a week of being in the car, Adam. So I feel much more comfortable here.
Yeah, I think that you had your go, you had your run in Imola. Of course, got a decent result, but you're back in here, back in kind of the safe spot. You're not having to worry about crash damage and bills, and trying to survive on old tires and whatever stresses come at you on the racetrack. You're here, you are down on, well, you're up in the commentary box in a really nice place, and now we take on board with the Lex around the beautiful Fuji circuit. We're in for a really interesting race. Of course, Fuji has a mix of long straights, as you're seeing now, and very, very technical corners. The last time I covered a race at Fuji, it started off dry, then went into wet, and then it started drying back up. So already having a little bit of experience around here of complete weather changes, and that seems to be following wherever I go.
Yeah, and I think drivers were hoping they'd maybe be done with the wet weather after Interlagos. As you know, it was a difficult race for so many drivers. It was wet to dry and back to wet. And at the moment, circuit is completely dry. And I'm sure the GT3 field and drivers like Joe Dauber know that time is limited. They might not stay that way for the full 6.5 minutes that remain. And Dauber gets the immense pleasure of some cars to keep him company on circuit, a little bit of distant tow, and hopefully no traffic to get in his way. But the times should start dropping in the benchmarks, which currently thrown down by Joe Dauber, dropping above the championship leader, Martin Lorink. And as you said, Adam, a unique circuit with a unique mix of cornering conditions and that dreaded third sector. I actually really like it. It forces you to lock in at the end of the lap, but it can get tricky. And as we'll see, once we're in the race, a exciting place for hypercars and GT3s to meet.
I think it kind of depends maybe on what kind of car you have, because there could be some cars that are more set up for cornering, and then it could be a really nice section. But if you're more focused on the straight line speed, or a car that's a literal box, then it may not be very nice to, negotiate this sequence of corners. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of what the drivers get up to. I think we'll have to be on complete weather watch here, Jack, because we talk about the drizzling, we talk about the potential conditions. 22 degrees air temperature, 27.7 in the track temperature. Watch that number. Be very, very careful. It looks like it's apparently going to be raining in the next 5 minutes. I don't believe that is the case. I don't think we're going to be seeing too much rain in the next couple of minutes, but maybe within the last, say, maybe 5 minutes or so, 4 minutes, we might be getting a couple of sprinkles for our wonderful hypercars.
There's the man himself, Martin Lawrence, jumping to the top of the qualifying times. He's the guy to beat. A fairly immense lead so far in the championship. Christoph Verstappen, another driver known for his pace in a sim, and already looking like an extremely tight qualifying. Couple new names. I'm noticing the man who went to third, Rimvidis Momkis, putting in a time. It's tight up in the top 6, less than a second separating him, less than 4/10 separating the top 5, and there's nothing, Adam, nothing better than a really, really tight qualifying session.
Indeed, that's all what we're here for. You mentioned kind of Christopher Straper, the only driver on this grid to be a champion. He won the Season 1 GT3 Pro Championship, which was, all those, what feels like months, maybe even a year ago. So Martin Lawrence showing some of his capabilities in his Lexus. It was very much this kind of style of Lexus locking out the front 2 positions with Lawrence ahead of Verstappen, but there can potentially be some upsets. That BMW not too far away, less than 4/10 of a second, with Tom Momkus and Rybecki in behind. Still got a couple of cars in the pit lane, so hopefully they'll be able to get out, because their qualifying session is going to be finishing very, very shortly.
Yeah, 3 minutes to go on that, and you mentioning the potential for upsets. It's underlined by the fact that we are 7 thousandths of a second separating these two, 6 thousandths of a second rather, separating the top 2 in the Lexus machinery. But we're coming right off the back of Tuesday's big update. We got a new circuit, 2 new cars, including a brand new hypercar, and a lot of BOP adjustments across the entire field. And I read through them. I can't tell you the exact numbers, but I do know for a fact that quite a bit of favoritism was shown to, well, maybe not favoritism, but definitely a bit of help was shown to the BMW. And I think qualifying is giving us a bit of a look-see into how the car is looking around Fuji. It was very quick for a while. Then it sort of got kicked in the back of the head a bit, and now it seems that maybe it's coming back around. The front engine favoritism, though, Adam, still seems to be holding strong.
It does. And we currently watch Fabian Schmidberger in his McLaren 720S GT3. Runs at second. Has been had quite the up and down results. A third and a second, but also a 5th and a 6th. So it's been a little bit of a difficult season. He can do a bit of damage, I think, during this championship, but or during this race, I should say. But I believe the Austrian driver is going to be very much a driver who could potentially get a really good result. Less than a minute and a half remaining of this session. So it looks like Martin Lawrence has gone a little bit faster there, bridging his gap by over 0.2 of a second. 140.893 is the Lexus. And what about everyone else here? Strapen still trying to get a lap in there, but the two Lexus are right together, so they get to kind of lean off each other. And we still see a couple of drivers left in the pit lane, 5 not setting a lap time, so I'm not sure if they're going to be around for the race.
Yeah, and that last lap, I was looking. Christoph Verstappen had a purple first sector. He puts in another purple first sector, but he invalidated some point around the middle of the lap. So it looks like that maybe he's got pace left in him. He can find that lap, but as anybody who's spent any time qualifying knows, it is all about putting the lap together. It's all about finding your limits in each of the sectors and lapping it all up. He should be crossing the timing line for sector 2. We'll see where he's looking. He's not up. Hypercars are beginning to feed onto the circuit as we're getting to those final seconds of qualifying for the LMG T3s, and it's all in this third sector for Christoph Verstappen. He's currently down, but he can find his way up. Time is precious, and it can be found in sector 3, looking a little tidy and a little actually. Let's see, a little loose coming out of turn 16, and we'll see on that long straight. That V8 power taking the Lexus down. Martin Lawrence going down pit lane. So his lap is going to stand. He's going to cross the line. And it's enough for provisional pole for Christoph Verstappen. 37 thousandths of a second. And we'll see what Wojciech Rybecki can do. It doesn't look like Momkis, well, he did set a lap, but it was not an improvement and not enough to better than third. But on the debut, very, very strong. Rybecki comes across. P4 is going to be the best for him. And it seems like there is going to be quite a fight, Adam, from this race start. I always like to think that qualifying is a bit of a peek into what is going to come into the race. And bad weather withstanding, we might be seeing some good stuff. And I'm wondering if Schmidberger, Adam, maybe having a bit of connection issues, and also might be doing one more lap than they should.
I think you can, stay out there, but of course, whatever kind of lap times you improve on, they won't count towards your final time. So I think at the moment he's just trying to get maybe a little bit more practice on this one, and it looks like we've now got what feels like for the first time a couple of gasps here in the commentary box. It's a wingless Peugeot.
Sorry, I couldn't contain my excitement.
Seen that for
That's amazing.
That is a very long time since we've seen that car as well. Looks like Fabian Schmidberger has been handed a stop and go penalty, I'm sure, for being out of his kind of time width. But we'll see Manuel Manguin, who's now heading in towards the first corner, passing the Valkyrie. Now, what can that wingless Peugeot do around this Fuji Speedway circuit? Hypercar qualifying very much underway.
Yeah, and now back onto the discussion of BOP. There was equal amount of work put into the hypercar field into making them a bit more narrow and make it less of a Peugeot party. It was the winged Peugeot that was the favorite on pretty much every circuit that existed. So I'm sure those who are still in a Peugeot now, the likes of Thomas Kalberg, and I was gonna say Kevin Boss, but I know he's not here this week, so we might only have one Peugeot. Maybe hoping that update came a little bit later, but hopefully we're going to see a bit closer competition in the hypercar field. Dion Smits driving another of the previously favored, the pre-update favorites, the Toyota, and he may be going purple in sector 2, but feels a bit more tire warming is necessary. And Adam, that's really been the story of the season. I feel like in qualifying and in race for those who go about changing their tires. That warm up 5-6 laps is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it's it's not what you want really. You want to be able to push your way all the way through this session. You've got to stay on the one set of tires, and no matter if you if you lock up, flat spot it, turn into a 50 pence piece or something along those lines. That's exactly what you need to be. You need to really be on kind of the limits there. Thomas Korberg goes up to second place behind Dion Smits in the Toyota Gazoo Racing. Toyota, of course, celebrating their home race here in Fuji. So be aware of all the Toyotas in the field being Billy Octane and Dion Smits. Of course, Smits was very, very strong in the race last time out at Imola, which you can see on the Racing Club International YouTube channel, also live on the Twitch if you're over there. An entertaining race, to be quite frank with you. And this is the BMW Zeno van Drescher, who's also been looking very competitive over the course of the season. Really had a good string of results, which just now needs to carry one or two more before the end of the season. This is, as we said, Jack, the penultimate round of the championship, and this is where championships can be won or binned.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll give everybody a refresher on what the standings look like coming into this round after we finish up qualifying and after Zeno finishes going to provisional pole. These times are getting more and more relevant as the session goes on. They're not quite up to temperature, I would say. Maybe this lap is the first sort of opportunity you have to put in a banker, a true time where it may stand throughout the session, but everybody knows it's going to be those last 2, 3 laps that mean everything for the session. Billy Octane goes third across the line, and granted, I did say there might be some shakeups due to the BOP swings that we've seen in hypercar, but it kind of seems like the usual suspects here so far, and perhaps that underlining what I think is what I enjoy so much about hypercars is it feels like it doesn't really matter what car you're driving in the top field. It's all about how you drive it, and that can make up all the difference. Somebody a bit backwards there. I think that might have been Martin Mares, who was backward out from turn 7. Not where you want to be for him, and here's perhaps how it ended up happening. Was it a bit of racing too early? And oh, he's running super deep into the side of Thomas Kalberg, who really didn't want to give up that time, really didn't want to give up that space. So, Adam, I think a lesson in finding your own bit of circuit where you don't have to deal with that during qualifying.
Indeed, it's one of those moments where it's not ideal whatsoever, but it's happened, it's in the books. Now need to move past it, really. So a lot of our drivers will just be focusing on what they can do. There is Marco Podolski. I think he's missed a couple of races. In fact, he's missed one, that being Imola. So not a lot of action, not a lot of V8 from that Cadillac ringing around the Imola circuit. And here's another great engine there, the Milan van der Veck and Aston Martin, which is down in 15th at the minute. He needs to get a lap time in with 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the board. He goes to third, which puts him onto the second row alongside Billy Octane. So it's BMW from Ferrari, from Aston, from Toyota, from Porsche, from Cadillac, followed by 2 Peugeot. So 7 different manufacturers in the top 7. That is a sight to look at. And Raphael Hull, who's not had the best of times here in LMU, 3 DNFs in the 9th place. He now is looking to put his car a little bit further up as Dion Schmitz now goes to the top. So the time is here. Zeno van Drescher will take over. What about Raphael Hull as he head over the line? Can he get his Porsche up toward the top end of the standing? He can, going to second place by just over 0.2 of a second to Zeno van Drescher. But there's just something in the baking oven of that BMW that is allowing that car to go a little bit extra faster. And I think it might be the thing between the steering wheel and the padded seat.
Yeah, there's something that Zeno can do in qualifying. I spent a little bit of time watching his onboard last week out at Imola, just because I was curious. A little bit of a lockup for Smits. That's probably going to ruin his qualifying effort here on the final lap coming into turn 10. And the way he can drive the car on the absolute limit in qualifying trim is it's balletic. Honestly, it is pure. I'm really not sure what other words to describe it other than, oh my good lord, he's so fast. How do I be that fast? Van der Vecken in the Valkyrie going a bit quicker. A car that was definitely given some favor in the BOP. It's sort of been a mid-pack car for a while, and Mick Milan choosing to stick with it season after season is finally seeing it come good for him. Let's see what Zeno could do. I think he invalidated his time. No, he didn't. We just didn't get that sector 2, and all he needed was a bit of improvement in sector 1 to improve his time just a little bit. Drivers getting ready to start their very final lap of qualifying, and most of them still on circuit. A couple of drivers are looking maybe a little bit off the pace in, well, we're getting a bit of sort of whiplash from thinking we have invalidated laps to drivers coming and putting in quick times. Thomas Kauberg in the Peugeot going to second now. It's tight, Adam, in LMGT3. It was tight, and it seems like it's equally as in the hypercar field. This is excellent.
It is. And you just got to continue working their way around. What about Milan van der Vecken into the final seconds of this qualifying second? Goes to the top of the standings there, 129.173. And that's going to see the Aston Martin go to the top. And that's how important is that going to be. Thomas Korberg has gone back to the garage. What about Zeno van Driesche in that BMW? You're just kind of singing his praises, Jack, of what that BMW driver can do. Looks like Korberg's done. Badowski's done. Barr is done. Looks like Zeno van Driesche is into the pits now. He can't do anything. What about Raphael Hull? He's over half a second down. He's making his way into the pit lane. And at the final eps of qualifying, as we see Dion Smits go into the barriers down at turn number 1, it's now going to be Milan van der Vecken to take a fantastic pole position here at Fuji. That is going to really boost the confidence levels.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing like coming and snatching pole position when I don't think he's sat on pole yet this season. He's been quick. He's always been quicker in the race than in qualifying, and now he's showing that maybe he's got the qualifying car underneath him. As we just saw, Richard Whittle heading into pit lane to end our session. Milan van der Vecken is on pole in hypercar. Zeno van Driesche going to join him on the front row. If I know anything about Fuji, there's going to be some movement into turn 1. It's such a long straight, so our eyes are going to be glued at the top few. Thomas Kauberg in third, Dion Smits fourth, Raphael Hu finally putting in a qualifying performance worthy of the talents of that driver. Marco Badowski making Ted Edwards proud in the Cadillac, going 6th place. George Barr 7th. Martin Vaselli in 8th. Octane 9th. And Mail Manguin in the wingless Peugeot, rounding out the top 10. Martin Mares 11th. Whittle is in 12th. Either Partez in the Lamborghini, which I deeply, deeply respect and deeply, deeply enjoy, in 13th, Kerrigan 14th, Aiden Smith 15th, and Jacob Tucky, who I will admit in the YouTube chat himself has said there's about a 25% chance that he does not finish this race as of turn 1. So maybe not feeling terribly confident, but he rounds out with a 16-car grid in hypercar. For LMGT3, Rimvidus Momkis, well, I'm going to say that's actually incorrect. I know he's not on pole. I believe we've been privy to the wonderful thing that tends to happen when sessions switch over and I take too long to read qualifying. So we'll know what the order is in a moment. And trying it one more time, bit of Alt F4, but no, we do not have qualifying results for qualifying in LMGT3. Apologies for that. We do have, I do believe, there it is, the timing screen. That does what we need to do. Well, maybe does. Yeah, that's incorrect as well. All right, well, we tried our best. Ted Edwards furiously doing everything he can, but the tools we use are still actively in development, so nothing's perfect yet. Though something I do know we have that is working is our championship standings going into round 5 here at Fuji. In the hypercars, it is Martin Vaselli with a very slight lead over Zeno van Driesche, and Milan van der Vecken trailing behind by a couple more points as well. And based on qualifying between those top 3, Vaselli sort of on the back foot. Dion Smits 4th, Kevin Boss 5th, Thomas Kauberg in 6th, Octane 7th, Martin Mares in 8th, Marco Dwowski 9th, and Callum Kerrigan in 10th. It is very close across the top 10 in hypercar, so moves still to be made towards the end of the season. Martin Lorick, commanding lead in the LMGT3 field. There has yet to be a race where he hasn't won with 120 points. Fabian Schmidberger showing that consistently finishing, consistently arriving, and getting a couple of good results means that second is very much theirs for the taking at the moment. Wojciech Rybecki in third, Dauber in fourth, Zach Vermack is in fifth, Emmo Plate is in sixth, Christopher Streppen in seventh, Alejandro Barrondo eighth, Gill ninth, and Michael Savage rounds out the top 10 for the championship coming into round five. And Adam, any pre-race predictions other than I think it's going to be a good one?
Whoops, my mic decides to drop from my stand. I'm going to predict that doesn't happen for the rest of the race. Actually, I think that might be a good prediction. Otherwise, I'll have to probably eat my own shoe if that decides to happen again. But I think everyone's going to be in for a bit of a saving race, in all honesty. I think there's going to be quite a bit of saving with the fuel, quite a bit of saving with the tyres. You're going to have to make some very snappy decisions during this one, I think. So we'll be really interested to see how this all kind of turns out. We're seeing some pretty bright conditions, so I wonder if the rain is still looming around the circuit. But of course, remember, we have an hour and 20 minutes to go in this race, so there's still plenty of time. And I'm also seeing the seems to be a Lamborghini in there as well, so it felt like it's been a while since we've seen a Lamborghini out on the track. It's not very much a properly used car. That being Idris Parta. Still seeing the same air and track temperature out there at this moment in time. So, the clouds, I'd say, still looming around. But do you want to, take it easy, or is it going to be pretty much all guns blazing at this point?
Uh, if I were getting ready for this race, the drivers sort of have a glimpse of what the forecast looks like. According to what I can see now, we do have a slot of drizzle beginning in 16 minutes. So at this point, knowing that maybe I won't need these tires in for an hour and 20 minutes, I'm going hell for leather off the start. I'm going to give it absolutely everything, and everybody sort of giving it guns, putting heat into the brakes, sort of bit of weaving around, getting prepped as best they can for the race starts. We will be going underway very shortly. Milan van der Vecken, I feel like it's been a long time coming for him to be back on pole position, so he's getting ready to take the green lights. We have a healthy grid tonight. I thought maybe people would be scared away by the rain, but it seems the rain was scared away by them. Round 5 about to be going underway here at the Fuji Speedway. Personal favorite circuit of mine, and I'm so excited to call the green flag. It is a really good start from Zeno Van Drisha on the outside. They're going to be rubbing each other all the way down towards turn 1. We got 3 wide in the background between a couple of cars. It's going to be on the brakes for everybody, and it seems like Milan has hold. Oh, that's about 4 wide in the background. Thomas Kalberg trying to hold off third position. That's Badowski being pushed just a little bit wide at the exit of turn 1. You do not want to be turned too wide going into turn 3 here at Coca-Cola Corner. It can get a little bit sketchy. Smits making his way through and pushing Kalberg wide. There's a Ferrari of Martin Vaselli trying to pounce around the outside as we go through 100R. And he might have this if he gets his braking point right. Down to first, probably. Slower than he really would want to be going. You can see that wiggle coming out. Bit of contact between the two, and here comes Badowski in the Cadillac, absolutely taking advantage of that and saying, "Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to grab fourth for now." Kalberg, though, still trying it on the brake. Oh, it's the wingless Peugeot sending it deep as he can, but keeping it all together, and everybody's so stacked up. And from what we could see, Adam, in the hypercar field, a very racy start, but a very clean one.
It does seem to be quite guns blaze in the opening lap or two. Of course, we've had this, as I say, the opening lap. I should correct myself there. But, we've got a spin there. That's going to be Billy Octane. He's hit somebody. I wonder if that's going to be the Ferrari of Richard Whittle in all of that. He's very lucky to get away with very little damage to the car. And it looks like we've had 5 drivers not make the start in the LMGT3 class. So they'll head their way over the line. Christopher Strapin has managed to keep his lead and expand to over a second to Martin Loreng. This is going to be pretty different, in fact, from what we've been seeing as the norm the last couple of races. It's 4 out of 4 for Martin Loreng. He's got a 100% record, and all he needs to do to finish ahead of Fabian Schmidberger to be the LMGT3 champion here in the multi-sprint series. Back with the hypercar battle, because we see Raphael Hull in the white and red Porsche with a tint of black. He's trying to work his way around what seems to be the fellow Porsche there of Marez. So he's got to be pretty attacking in this one, but he's also got Callum Carrigan just waiting to pick up the piece in the background.
Yeah, I'm afraid to say it's another poor start for Raphael Hull. He started up into 5th as well, and maybe didn't get a poor launch. Maybe got shoved out by everybody sort of muscling each other out of the way. So he's back down into 10th, looking for places to take. And we're going to see a replay now. I'm going to take a guess of an early race incident. This is Jacob Tucky in the Ferrari. He said that maybe he'd have a DNF. He's starting out on the hard tire, so really not having the grip that everybody else is. We'll see into 100R. Oh, it's just a snap, and that suspension snapped. So he said he'd DNF in turn 1, and I will congratulate him on not doing that, but instead making it to turn 5. But a bit unfortunate there. Here's Joe Dauber, who's very much on his own. And, well, oh, I'm wondering, we saw this on Monday with Joe Dauber. He was having some issues. He actually disconnected from both the races. He disconnected from the lead on Monday, so I'm afraid that he's sort of having a repeat of that, which is really unfortunate. He's such a quick driver, and he likes sort of having the odds stacked against him. He likes having to start from the back, but having 8 seconds to the next car at him, I think is a mountain that even he isn't too excited to climb.
It's honestly a gap that no driver is going to be ready to climb. It's going to be such a difficult one. This is Billy Octane. We'll be able to see what happens. We're running on board here with Richard Whittle. You'll see the slide coming in. Whoa, my word. There's a bit of a tap at the front, so shouldn't have damaged Whittle too much. So hopefully there will be some continuation. Let's have a look from on board with Billy Octane. We'll ride the curb, and is it just rear locking? Yep, just rear locking. Bang into the side of Richard Whittle, and he's again very lucky to continue. So it's all about trying to get through that rebuild process at the minute. So Jack, let's see what he can do.
Yeah, he shouldn't be carrying too much damage, and this is also a driver we know who plays these races long. He plays the strategy game. He's the fuel save savior, though he doesn't have his saving rival of Kevin Boss joining him today. So hopefully he'll do the best he can. He's right on the back of his good friend Callum Carrigan. Them two in nearly identical Ferraris, though. They've chosen a slightly different color scheme. One pink, one red. Very, very striking. You can see Billy Octane in the background trying to scrabble back from his early spin. And I imagine Richard Whittle right now is using the back of Carrigan's car as an opportunity to save more. You know, lift a bit later into corners and stretch that gap. So by the time they hit the fuel stop, the pit stop, he's stationary for less time and hopefully gain some time back. Billy Octane, we just saw his incident. Why he's back in 14th is certainly brave around the outside there. I don't think that went the way he was planning. The door kind of got shut on him. He got muscled a bit wide by the Lamborghini of Reduce Partez. And outside of the incident with Billy Octane and the incident with the late great Reduce Partez in the or not Reduce Partez, excuse me, the late great Ferrari driver, and it was a pretty clean start. I'm impressed. I think drivers knowing that maybe now isn't the time to take risks at him, and it's uh, maybe well, I think I've spoken that into existence just a tad. More incidents. I think Rouserie is a bit stuck in the grass there, Adam.
He's managed to get going, but he'll bump his way on towards the circuit, and that seems to be a replay. This is what we're going to be getting here. So here comes Alexis down in towards the Coca-Cola corner. Will he be able to? He just grabs a lot of curb there, and that upsets the car and says, "I can't do that." Spins around, and then he has to take to the grass to get himself going forward again, and then he spins it.
Oh,
So not the best kind of action of the race there for Roussier. He'll drop to the bottom, 16.5 seconds behind the next car in front. That's not going to be the ideal way to go. More battles going on here. Thomas Kohlberg on the inside here of Martin Vesely. Vesely, who currently now sits at the lead of the championship in the hypercar class, but I wonder if by the end of tonight, will he be handing that one over? I will be keeping an eye out for that one, but again, it looks like Kohlberg is squeezing. Well, he's the one being squeezed, in fact, right to the pit wall. Sorry, that was Vesely, my error, but very, very difficult between the two.
yeah, that's really hard racing between these two. They're not giving it up at all. They know that these points are going to be important going into the end of the season. And well, while it's reasonably sunny and the circuit is completely dry, let's pull some shenanigans on each other. Silly might try it down into the hairpin. He's not quite close enough. It's not as big of a braking zone as it feels when you're in the car. It's really only about 100 meters you're braking from your turn in point, but a good start for Vesely. He didn't qualify all that well, but he's really coming good in the race, which I feel has sort of been his style throughout the championship. And going into sector 3, that dirty air coming off the back of these hypercars just make following a bit more difficult. Maybe you get unsettled. He sort of cuts the curb there a bit, maybe getting a bit of a warning ping. And well, our first bit of multi-class as they go around the Lamborghini of Roussier, or Lamborghini, excuse me. I wish it was a Lamborghini. The Lexus of Roussier. And they're back onto the long straight, and it's between the two. Honestly, it's a coin toss, and I think who's going to be the victor here. Both showing pace, both handing it back and forth. You can see maybe he thought about going defensive there, tried to sell a bit of a dummy, but didn't end up needing to. He goes a bit deep, though, into Daishi, and they're going to run it down towards turn 3. Super, super close. A bit of a show in the mirrors for Vesely. It worked a little bit. Kohlberg put off of his braking point just a tad. 100R, not a corner I envy, having to follow somebody. He gets a superb exit, though. He's going to try down the inside, but yet again, not close. Thomas Kohlberg, Adam, seems super, super steady on the brakes.
He does, and you really need to be, good on those brakes through 300R. Martin Vesely is just a driver who's going to be on the move at this moment in time. He's really got to try and get past Thomas Kohlberg at whatever costs it may come, because he's the lowest driver in the top 4 of the championship standings. Vesely, who tops the standings at the moment, running down in P5 compared to everyone around him. This is Wojciech Rybecki in the BOP improved BMW M4 GT3 Evo, looking to try and go down the inside of one of the Vista AF courses of Emo Plata. He's gone a little bit too deep there. Will BMW be able to get the run off turn number 1 in towards turn number 3? Brilliant stuff there from Wojciech Rybecki. The Czech driver will now be on his way, and Emo Plata may have to start looking behind because he's got Mumkus in behind as well, the brand new driver to the multi-sprint series. So we'll be having to keep an eye out for a driver that he's potentially not even raced against ever. So, you have to be pretty cautious when, racing other drivers that you may have not raced against before. And Momk is already showing his intent by looking around the outside, but the Vista AF course are already just saying no and slapping a stamp on that.
Yeah, it seems like I will say it is a bit different to see Mo Platt in. Oh no, it's Billy Octane again with another error. See yet again in the third sector, but this time he didn't quite make it to 16. That looked like the exit of turn 13. We'll see if we can get that. He comes up on the back of the duo between Kerrigan and Withel, and oh no, it was actually I was entirely wrong. It was turn 4, 100R. Barely keeps it out of the wall. I don't think he touched the wall at all. So good news for him. See what that looked like on board. Dirty air of not just one but two cars. He sort of gets back on the throttle. Oh, I think he was a bit worried about tapping the back of Withel's Ferrari. Dipped to the throttle, maybe tapped the brakes just a bit, and that was enough to unsettle the car. So respect to Billy for not willingly driving into the back of somebody, but maybe to his detriment a bit. The Toyotas do look like a bit of a handful and have looked like a bit of a handful so far this season, and again biting hard on Billy Octane. But the good news for him, he's not quite in last yet, so there is room to make up. And who knows, if the drizzle begins and the rain comes, he can make a brilliant strategy call, and it could all come back his way. But more fighting. These two still absolutely battling it out. They're going to come down now towards turn 10. This time, they have the LMGT3s keeping him company. Vaselli trying around the outside of Colberg. He's got a BMW right in front of him. Colberg getting shoved off circuit. Just a skosh. Here's Badowski looking for a sneaky move when it's unexpected. They're going to have to maybe take it a bit easy through the third sector. You can see Calberic positioning his car. He knows that Vaselli's not going to be able to get on the throttle early enough, but he doesn't quite find the room. BMW on the outside wisely staying way out of the way of these three because they are not going to slow down. They are not going to wait. This is for the podium after all. Excuse me, this is the battle for fourth after all, and good championship points. And Cadillac going extremely well today, Adam, to the delights of Ted Edwards' eyes and ears.
Indeed he is. And he's just trying to conserve a little bit of energy. You heard the engine just kind of die off the revs a little bit. You see the battle in front. Thomas Kohlberg is not someone who's going to be wanting to give this up easy, but Badowski will just continue to drive forward. And now we've hit the two leaders on that outside line. Oh my goodness me, that's going to be Kohlberg trying to push through. But it did look like the Lexus. No, you don't. Vaselli manages to slide on through, and that's exactly what he's going to be wanting. And they head their way through 300R and on towards the chicane section they go. Massive frustration if you're Thomas Kohlberg. That number 7 Peugeot had a really big opportunity and it's just been doused in a kind of a liquid full of Lexus. Badowski will be looking to see if he can find an opportunity in that Cadillac, but I think if I was Badowski, I think you've got to go for a move. Maybe he's a bit too far away for now, but try and just keep the pressure on the Peugeot, wait to see if there's a potential mistake, and if there is a mistake, absolutely go for the move, because that might not be the last time that might be the last time you see that Peugeot. So you've got to take every single opportunity as it comes. That seems to be Iridius Partes, the Polish driver in that Lamborghini. And that's not going to be last time we talk about that Lamborghini going 180 degrees.
Yeah, it's the first of, I feel like what's maybe become a bit of a theme, just sort of getting unsettled into turn 14, and round he goes. Fortunately, he's parked up in a safe spot and rightfully waits for other cars to clear, but Rius Partes, it's been a struggle all season for him, but the willingness to show up week after week and keep the practice coming and hope to get better, hope to get on the pace is absolutely admirable. And to do in a Lamborghini as well, a car that in Le Mans Ultimate has never been easy to drive. It's always been a pretty decent car, but it's been a handful all the way through. So much respect to him. Badowski now thinking about, well, he's still as close as he was, but I feel like if we look at the energy at the bottom of the screen, he's doing a bit of a better job fuel saving. And I think he's using the Peugeot ahead to do the same, lifting a bit into corners, maybe not pushing it too hard on exits as well, hoping that if he can stay with Thomas Kauberg all the way through this, by the time they get to the pit cycle, he will come out ahead ultimately because he's stationary for less time. We'll see as he's coming into turn one here whether he does lift and to what degree he does. Before the 250 board, that's a big lift for him and a big lockup for Thomas Kauberg. The opportunity arises itself, and the Cadillac is there to take it. Marco Badowski up to 5th place, and well, Thomas Kauberg kicking himself after that. He's thinking about chasing the car ahead of him. He's thinking about a 4th position, but you know, a late break into one means a mistake, and it's good day for Cadillac for sure, Adam. And we'll see how long he can hold them off because they're on different driving strategies, and we know how quick Thomas Kauberg can be.
So we'll have to carry on with this battle. Kauberg again may have a frustrating feeling. I just wonder if it might be down to potentially tyres. Maybe it's down to fuel saving. It kind of, you know, really depends on what kind of the dashboard is saying of that Peugeot. We do in fact have a replay, it seems like. If we cycle through the garages here, is seems to be one of our newer drivers. This is looks like it's showing Schmidt and Van Driesche at this moment in time. So I'm not sure why it's doing that. There's a Y moment there. That is going to be what I believe is the was going to be Zeno Van Driesche getting overtaken there. So that's going to be just a simple mistake. But will he get him back down the front straight of the Toyota? It does look like it's going to be a no on that one.
Yep, and we're back to the fight again, but that was sort of Smits being opportunistic in the right way. And he's thinking that maybe Zeno doesn't quite have the pace. And here's Fabian Schmidberger trying to get himself back up on the podium, and a lot greater speed coming out of the final corner. I think he's going to get ran all the way to the wall. Maybe not quite. Wojciech Rybecki jumping back into the toe, hoping for maybe a late move on the brakes. Is he going to hang it? He's thinking about it. See his sort of nose darted out in the last second. He thought, maybe I could go for this, maybe I shouldn't. But the one of the few mid-engine cars that run up in the top bits of the LMGT3 field, driven by Fabian Schmidberger, well, he runs the heck out of it, and he does super well. Enjoying that McLaren, and that's him up to 3rd position for the moment. However, Rybecki coming back at him, maybe in the hairpin. They're going to be side by side. And they give each other lots of space for sure. Always a good thing to do coming out of that corner. Maybe a bit of a nudge on the exit. Fab says, hey, I would like this room, please, and asks for it and is, well, given it maybe unceremoniously, but coming down towards turn 10. I really got to say, there's a Valkyrie that's spun on the exit, and that might get in the way of these three. Oh, nope, he's parked in a safe spot. But I got to say, the McLaren looks supremely quick in a straight line. Adam, it's like, I thought maybe it was a difference in exits, but at that point he was, you know, tenths ahead, but you could see through the corners, maybe not as quick. So different setups, different strategies.
Yeah, I think you'd think that the McLaren's a bit more of a stable aerodynamic car, really good in the corners, but you know, it's really working well down that main straight. But then you see a BMW behind it, especially its 2. We'll have to keep an eye out for, you know, what could potentially be done there. Or Wojciech Rybecki just seemingly not being able to gain there on the McLaren of Fabian Schmidberger. They head their way on towards the first corner here at Mount Fuji, or I should say Fuji Speedway. The mountain is there in the background, always very, very visible to the entire circuit. Head through Coca-Cola corner. Yeah, I got confused the first time I said Coca-Cola when it was actually Dunlop corner. So mixing up my sponsors, I'm sure Fuji Speedway will be very happy with me on that part. But through 100-hour corner, I do know, and that happened in 10-6, where there's been a lot of carnage in years gone by. You've got to be very careful through that one. And Wojciech Rebecki at the minute now seemingly had that close etch here on Fabian Schmidberger. Will he potentially go for the move? No, he says, I'm not making a risk through there. Hops over the chicane where the BMW is able to make that compared to other cars like we saw earlier, aka the Lexus. But again, Schmidberger maybe feeling a little bit of pressure here, but I think when we get onto that straight, let's just stay with Wojciech Rebecki so we see the gap kind of coming back out.
Yeah, definitely curious what it's quite going to be. To both drivers taking different lines, sort of Fab's maybe V'ing off the corner a bit more, Rybecki going for an earlier apex, and it is coming the way of the BMW, but barely. It's actually going back the way of Fabian Schmidberger. So yeah, that McLaren certainly built more for straight line speed tonight. And another thing worth noting, I would have expected some drizzles on the on people's windshields by now, but no, it looks like we're still I was going to say blue skies. They've gone a bit gray at this point, but no rain on circuit yet. So drivers maybe not, maybe forgetting that the weather was a key, and that was a little bit close there. The Aston Martin asking a bit too much for compliance on the LMG T3s, but Fabian's going to be okay with that. It's a lot of moving around behind. Really, I'm wondering if Aiden Smith has not had a lot of practice in multi-class. That is sort of what that looked like to me. It's a skill, absolutely. It's not just something you do reactively. Is making your way through traffic. You have to feel it out, and if you haven't done it a whole lot, it can sort of look like that, where you're freaking people out in their mirrors. But hopefully he'll get a handle on it, and crucially not run into the back of any LMG T3 cars. This is still the fight for second. Saw earlier that Dion Smits got past Zeno, and Zeno's back through, but it's not really going the way of either. I mean, you can see their last lap times is a quarter of a second off of each other, but that is such a small amount in the grand scheme of things. Here's some GT3 cars to make things a bit more interesting. Smits kind of, well, they split the Porsche, and I think Smits might have had the right idea here. He went in when Zeno went out, and now Zeno's going to be boxed out behind Joe Dauber. That was really brilliant stuff. Super, super great way of using traffic to your advantage. Sometimes the car behind has a better picture of what's going to come next. And Dion Smits judges it to perfection, leaving Zeno Vandrisha with nowhere to go. And so it's a position change again, but if anything's been known to us in the first 25 minutes of this race, I don't think these two are going to calm it down anytime soon.
I think this race is maybe subject to change a bit. You know, Dion Smits there feeling a little bit of pressure from Zeno Vandrisha. And there's still some very close championship points up for grabs here. The Vista Air, of course, of Ferrari gets dispatched by both of the hypercars, and Zeno Vandrisha is now going to be someone who's going to be really on the fight here. I think he's also dropped down to third in the live title standing, which is looking pretty close at the minute, I will admit. So Vandrisha now looking to try and potentially get past Schmidt here in that Toyota, but Toyota are really going to be hoping for a really good run here. Momentarily yellow as well. That's going to be something to keep an eye out for, but it has been revoked. Looks like I'm being hurt. I'm hearing that it's going to be Marko Badowski in the Cadillac. The hypercars now stream their way through, and also I think Schmidberger is going to pick up a tad bit of slipstream from that from Vandrisha. But they head their way now on towards turn number one here, and I think it's going to be a potentially overtake here, Jack.
Yeah, it looks like Zeno's car's a bit better on the straights. We're seeing the reverse of how the McLaren was set up, but this time in the hypercar. Zeno had a look there, but overtaking around the outside in turn one is so difficult. So we're going to see what happened to Marko Badowski. He was up in fifth at this point, and now he unfortunately is down into eighth. Is it? Oh, it's just locking in the rear. He's off the rubber when he's that wide. He was making sure to give Dauber a lot of space. Maybe rush the rejoin just a tad bit. Unfortunately, didn't cause any chaos. But now when you're fully off the rubber like that, it's will make your braking point. You need to brake earlier to begin with, and maybe trail off earlier as well. And I don't think Marco Badowski did either. So unfortunately for him, he was running stellarly up into fifth, holding off Thomas Kalberg, a really, really quick driver. And now he's going to have to do the work again. We see the reverse of what we just saw 2 laps ago. But this time, it's going the way of Zeno Vendrisha. He saw the opportunity. I'm going to go low. Smits is going to go high, and it's going to be a drag race down to turn 1 again. It's going the way of Dion Smits. It's going to be really close. They're going to run it all the way to the wall. There's no room, and it's the reverse squeeze on the outside. A little bit of touch coming into 1. Last of the late breakers, but around the outside of Daichi is so tricky. Dion Smits, though, trying for the up and under.
Oh
Going down, these two just rubbing all the way down to turn 3, and a bit of a shoulder check there from Zeno Vandrisha. He said, "Hey, this is why you shouldn't go too wide," and closed the door a bit there on him, Adam. But such like drivers when they're at this level, and these two are so unbelievably quick. They have such a good mastery of the racing surface. Drivers like this, where they're using traffic to their advantage. Raphael Huel around the outside of turn 15 with, oh no, actually, he just got tapped around, ran out of room just a bit. Maybe he didn't realize that the Ferrari was on his inside. We'll see what that looks like again from the onboard. And the Ferrari's running wide, so it wasn't even, it wasn't actually he ran out of room. He was forced into the side of Raphael Huel there. So multi-class giveth, Adam, and multi-class taketh away.
I think it's a brilliant skill to have, mastering getting through traffic. Like, no matter if that is going to be through the hypercars or through the LMGT3s, it's something that a lot of drivers kind of need, no matter which class you were in. We just see the hypercars maneuvering their way like a slalom through the Lexus LMGT3s. That incident was just really unfortunate. I think, sometimes it's wrong place, wrong time. Because I don't want to throw any fingers at any of our drivers here. They're here for fun. They're here to compete. They're here to race and enjoy what they do. Martin Lawrence still sitting in second. Not looking too bad there on the old virtual energy, but is he kind of matching, or is at the moment matching his kind of manufacturer team? Remember, there's no kind of teammates. So, whilst you're seeing Verstappen and Lawrence in the same livery, same manufacturer, I can assure you they're not teammates. Everyone here is racing for their own pride. But I'm being told they are esports teammates, so they do kind of lean off each other. They know how to race each other. But will Lawrence potentially go for a move here on Verstappen? I can't see a reason why not.
Absolutely not. We have the virtual energy as we're coming into 30 minutes into this race. Half distance on a tank of fuel, a little bit more than half distance on a tank of fuel. And I was curious to see to name our save savior so far, and it's actually Aiden Smith, who's back down to 15th. Raphael Huel doing a great job, and Richard Withel doing an equal job in the hypercar field. And there's no real standouts in virtual energy for LMGT3. It seems Joe Dauber's doing the best. I think after his connection issues that put him way far back at the early race, he's thinking, well, my chance now is let's do a bit more fuel saving than the rest. His pace, though, still is quite good. He's running 1 minute 42s fairly consistently, with the guys at the absolute top tapping into the 41s. And now that we're on board with him, we'll take a listen to what level of fuel saving he's doing. Turn 1 is always a good indicator for how much someone is Lycoing here at Fuji. There's not a ton of big braking zones, so there aren't a ton of them. That is, I'd say, the regular amount of fuel saving that I'd see some people do around here. So nothing crazy. Managing his pace, hoping that he can get closer towards the top once the pit stops begin, Adam, and a super strategic move from a seasoned driver that is Joe Dauber. Not calling him old, by the way, just seasoned.
Yeah, I think you can also use experience as well. You know, he's done plenty of races on LMU, on in sim racing as well. And this is an overtake here. Raphael Poole on Billy Octane, the Porsche, the standard Porsche livery up against the Toyota. Of course, Toyota, pretty sure use Fuji as a test venue for a lot of their cars back in the day. I'm not sure, how, if that's still a thing, or because it's a lot of testing mainly is for Super Formula and them kind of series. They test a lot of Suzuka. It seems they'll host massive tests of Suzuka, but very recently, I think within the last definitely 2 weeks or so, we had a Max Verstappen testing the Super GT car around here in Fuji. That was in the pouring rain, but just kind of go to show that Fuji is still a circuit very much in use as well. And we now see the LMGT3 lead battle here. Martin Lorenk and Christopher Strapen having a little ding-dong. Who's that on the high side? I think it's Martin Lorenk. So Lorenk with the black Lexus banner at the top, using the 87, and then the 78 with the white kind of strip. Christopher Strapen, and will Martin Lorenk go for a lunge here down in towards the Dunlop chicane? Decides not to against his esports teammate, because he knows otherwise if there was a collision, misjudged his braking point, slammed into the side of his teammate, there's going to be some big words and a bit of fire between teammates, which are not what you want during any sim racing competition.
Yeah, and when you're racing with somebody and against them as much, you sort of, you have a good idea where you should. Fabian Schmidberger there getting got by the BMW Wojciech Rybecki after a while. I feel like it really was a long time coming. Fab's doing a superb job, a superb defensive job, but I don't think it's quite over. Schmidberger's close enough that come the end of the straight here, they might be maybe in position for an overtake, but I think they need to be looking back more than front, because Momkis is super close. Is Fabian Schmidberger going to go defensive? No, it's just going to wait there. Momkis going to try it down the inside. A bit of a late defensive move, but I think Fabian's looking up ahead and not back behind. I want third place back. I'm not even bothered about you trying to take fifth. But the mid-engine master in between a sandwich of front-engine BMWs is, well, it really brings to mind how big the BMW M4 GT3s actually look. It's not a small car, mind you, but in a field of cars that are built more from like a supercar chassis, it's they look quite big, they look quite fat, and their grills are stupid. I will never forgive BMW for what they've done. I don't care how performance enhancing those grills are. The big schnonkers on the front of that M4 is gross. We have now the hard charging SJ&H driver of Billy Octane still trying to work his way back through on after his misgivings, shall we say, his spins early on. He's thinking about it down the inside of Callum Kerrigan. He's alongside, but he's going deep, but they give each other enough room. Callum Kerrigan pushed off a little bit, but very late on the brakes for Billy Octane, but impressively not going into the side of the Ferrari. Some great hard racing between some RCI vets and good friends. I think it's fair to pretty much call all these guys friends at the end of the day, but Billy Octane showing that he's going to push when he needs to push. He's running out of time to really climb back onto the field. So down with Callum Kerrigan, eyes forward on the next Ferrari on the list.
we've had a yellow out very briefly, and that was for this exact reason. This is Marco Podolski in the all black and red Cadillac, and he's just gonna, oh, he's just spun it on the rear. I don't know if that's down to kind of a brake bias adjustment, or if that's down to maybe weight transfer. I'm not really too sure in that case, but it is a very, very twitchy Cadillac, which is not liking that's not liking the kind of direction change being made there by Marco Podolski. 3 Alexis's in this little tussle. Looks like Christopher Straper is trying to go up the inside here. Roussier, and yeah, seemingly getting straight through, as well as his manufacturer teammate Martin Lorenk, who is very much on with an absolute opportunity to grab another win here. His 5th out of in 5 rounds, but it doesn't look too likely at the moment. Still sitting behind Christopher Strapen, but pretty sure there were moments during the race in Imola where Verstappen was leading, but not to this extent.
Yeah, I mean, you say this extent, it's still just so close between them. They're trading lap times. You can see on the left side of your screen a 42.7 and a 42.6 from Christoph and from Martin Lorenk. But it's something that it could honestly be decided, or it could be switched from who saved just that tiniest bit more fuel. Who's going to be stationary for a second less in pit lane? Who's going to get that advantage coming out? That could be the deciding factor. We haven't seen too much of Menguin and his alternate choice of a Peugeot, the wingless variant. He's going to come down, bearing down on Richard Whittle. But I do believe, excuse me, that's not Richard Whittle, that's George Barr. I'm so used to seeing a red car and just automatically thinking it's Richard Whittle, but no, bit different. That's an Aston Martin Valkyrie of George Barr. And interesting note that Ted has spotted the compound or the tires that are on that car. Because it's so old, it doesn't actually show us what tires he's on. Normally they'd have a yellow or red sidewall if they were mediums or hard. He is on mediums because that car is, well, 3 years out of date at this point, and it's the old tires. So interesting note there, and shows what's a slightly interesting choice. We have a replay here for Milan van der Vecken. He has lost the lead of the race, and I think we might be finding out why in a second. It is sector 3. I would be surprised if it isn't. You can sort of that's will do it. He's coming up towards turn 14, and there's a Lexus staring him directly in the face. We're on board. We'll see what that looks like. Maybe a bit of a deer in the headlights moment, but it's also a bit of a blind corner. So we'll see how much he saw. It's a bit of a misjudgment. It was like, is he going to keep spinning? Is he going to go? He gets tapped again on the exit just for good measure. But Milan van der Vecken thinking that now is the time to pit, maybe get rid of that damage as early as he can. And the Lexus is in as well, Adam, and that is super unfortunate. That's not really the fault of van der Vecken. He was driving a superb race out in front, and call it what you want. I call it bad luck. The lead is no longer his.
It's kind of just a case of unfortunate events, and that's really going to be unfortunate. I'm just a little bit concerned. I'm not seeing his I'm not seeing his virtual energy go up after 74%, which is a little bit of a shame as he gets underway now. So he'll leave what seems to be in 14th place. So he's got a lot of kind of positioning to, or a lot of things to undo there and try and right his wrongs there. Well, I say right his wrongs, but of course it was just not really anything to blame on him here. Fabian Schmidberger now getting caught by Momkus and just grabbing a little bit of extra toe there from what would seem to be the Aston Martin of the recently deceased Milan van der Vecken. But Momkus will go through there ahead of Fabian Schmidberger, and some super work there from the BMW. Schmidberger tried to do whenever he could, but we'll have to see what he does in the second half of this race.
I can't believe you said Milan was dead. He's right there. He's fine. Recently injured, or like recently maimed, maybe. But no, Milan van der Vecken, contrary to what the headlines say, is very much still alive. Marco Badowski is the second of the hypercars to come down pit lane. And well, we're back to the battle that's been keeping us entertained all race, the fight between Dion Smits and Martin Vaselli, this time not fighting for the bottom step of the podium, but for the step of the best of the rest. And it is definitely a shame for any race contact to, especially when it's not really your fault, to sort of affect your race in such a way. But knowing the recently maimed driver of Milan van der Vecken, he's going to come back with a vengeance. He fueled all he needed, or all he thinks he needed for the rest of the race. And here's Badowski coming out. It might be close coming out of pit lane with Milan van der Vecken. We'll see how much the damage is. But I think Milan's gonna, well, he's gonna arrive right next to him, but that's not going well. That's gonna be cold tires for Marco Badowski. He went all for the gamble, changed his tires, and well, that's gonna be very cold and very slow for the next couple of laps. Martin Vaselli now into pit lane. Interestingly, a lot of these drivers, Adam, I'm wondering if tires are the deciding factor for a lot of them, because they're going for maybe an early undercut on tires, which is not something we've seen yet this season. Everybody tends to go till their fuel tank runs empty. So we'll see how it pays off. It is a bold call from Martin Vaselli, hoping that come the end of the race, perhaps he will be on some super quick tires.
It could be the fact that you know, it's such a difficult kind of circuit in terms of tires as well. You know, you've got some really long sections like 100R. You know, that final section as well. So it does look like 4 new tires were taken in that stop. Martin Lorenk now right behind Christoph Verstappen. So it just seems like for now, Martin Lorenk, at this moment in time, will look for a gap here on Christoph Verstappen, but he also has the potential here to go for an undercut. But you know, do you really want to be doing that potentially on a teammate as well? There's a lot of questions here up in the air, and you know that just means it's Lexus battle for the race lead is not going to be done and dusted until the checker flag is out. And it'll be from Lorenk fluctuates between 4/10 and 6/10 of a second, but hypercar will, I'm sure, be very much a very difficult thing to keep an eye out for. This is Billy Octane looking to try and get past Richard Whittle, flashing in the wing mirrors. He'll go to the outside there, try and fake out the Ferrari. It looks like that Ferrari 499P is just sticking ahead there of the multicolored Toyota. Looks like that's going to be Iridius Partes, who's had a yellow come out for him in the Lamborghini. But at the moment in time, he's just got to try and continue working on through, and another yellow in sector 3. That's very lucky, withdrawn very quickly. But Kerrigan also into the pits now. We continue this battle between Octane and Whittle.
Yeah, and it looks like Richard had a minor lockup coming into turn 1, and that's what forced him wide. And Billy, just, well, considering he was breaking from the racing line, was very comfortable, very capable of just snatching that move back. And the thing that I noticed immediately is Octane early in the race seemed like he was going on a deep save strategy. He had more virtual energy than pretty much the rest of the field, but as he's begun to push back, you can see he's got 2% less virtual energy than Richard Whittle. So sort of middle of the race, going a bit deep in the final corner, but middle of the race, he decided this fuel saving stuff maybe either isn't the right strategy for him, or maybe is a little bit less fun. So he decides he's going to tear through the field as quick as he can. And well, he runs out of fuel a bit early. But Raphael Huell now joining the fight from the back. And because of Whittle's strategy, I'm wondering if he's really not going to work too hard on being defensive there. And here's the LMGT3 leaders making it pretty for Octane. He's just able to step clearly away from the two cars behind him, them having to go around the outside in 100R, and Octane going, well, that's cool, thanks for that, gentlemen, and I'm gonna carry on now. We'll see if Aiden in his Valkyrie will step out of the way quickly of Octane. Actually, he wouldn't step out of the way. No, he is a lap down. I was correct. He does step out of the way. Martin Lorink, they're running out of fuel, both of them. A handful of laps if Martin wants to get this done on the circuit, Adam, but nothing between the two, nothing separating them on virtual energy either, I think. And I'm not disappointed to say this. I think it's just going to be a straight fight to the end.
I think so too. I can't see them being separated until really the pit stop strategies, and even then, they will probably come out very, very close to each other. To be honest, you know, the way these guys work, I wouldn't be surprised if they both pit at the same time. They're currently on 70% of their virtual energy as well, so they'll be pretty much fueling light. In terms of the pit stops, it's Martin Vaselli who has come out ahead of Van der Becker. Now we're seeing Martin Lauren go to the outside here on Christoph Verstappen. It's Lexus v Lexus in towards the first corner. Martin Lorink is going to be forced right to that outside line. A little bit wide though, and they'll carry that momentum through turn number 2 and on toward 3. Verstappen still sticks ahead, and Martin Lorink will have to now look at somewhere else. Will he look through the next right-hander here, 100R? Just looks like he's not able to do anything there. The third Lexus in this race with a yellow flag in sector 3, so more issues for them.
Yeah, I feel like the most interesting thing for me about this fight isn't that these guys are teammates, isn't that they have history of racing against each other. A late move for Lorik, that's going to send him super deep into turn 10. He was thinking about that one for a while. He said, I've had enough of this nonsense, but maybe a day late and a dollar short, as they say. But the most interesting thing about it is the fact that they are in the exact same car, and I feel like there's a good chance they're running the exact same setup. And when you're racing somebody who's sharing the same machinery as you, you can't sort of prey on the natural strengths and weaknesses of their car versus yours. It's a lot more difficult to find an edge other than just being out and out quicker. Here's Huell now on the back of Richard Whittle. These two being the, if there was a fuel saving award, they would be, well, they'd be fighting to be recipients of it. They're sharing about the same, and we will see how much Huell is lifting behind. He's not lifting through the first sector. I know he is certainly one who's lifting a lot in turn 1. I feel like that might be where a lot of these drivers are trying to get the bulk of their fuel saving. Well, we'll see coming down towards turn 10. Nope, no lift there. I think he's decided, Huell, to push on and try to get track position rather than maybe get position in pit lane, which, let's be honest, Adam, as racing drivers, you tend to want to sort it out on circuit.
You do. You know, it's pretty dissatisfying, you know, overtaking the pit lane. You know, it's like, great, I've done that, but, you know, that feeling of making an overtake on the track for, you know, an important position is kind of, I would say, personally, second to none. It's, you know, such a great feeling, and we'll take on board here with Richard Whittle in the Porsche 963. But will he be able to catch the car here? Sorry, Raphael Huell, I've been corrected in my earpiece. But down into towards that first corner, he's great on the brakes, but the straight line speed just doesn't seem to be there for, you know, one of the more dominant cars in the hypercar era. Looks like Callum Kerrigan has stopped at 100R. I wonder if he's gone into the barrier. We'll get a replay of the Ferrari 499P. Number 28 heading through turn number 3 and on towards 100R. Is the rear just going to go on that hypercar? Yes, it does. He does it all. And so does he back it into the barrier? He does.
Oh,
That's going to be a heavy, heavy hit. That's suspension damage as well. And my word, Callum Kerrigan, a very, very unfortunate moment. Let's have a listen.
it's on the downshift. I think it's absolutely on the downshift. It's gonna upset the rear axle the way the sort of diff is set up. It tried to send maybe power to that outside wheel when it shouldn't have. Kicked back. You can see his steering already not straight at impact. Is gonna be costly. It's gonna get a bit worse for Callum Kerrigan, and I gotta say, we've sort of seen the mistakes starting to come thick and fast towards the end of the stint here. I wonder if drivers, the way they've set these cars up, maybe aren't favoring the low fuel conditions, and maybe I think if they're looking for a better setup, perhaps they could check out our partner at Coach Dave Delta. And I know that a lot of drivers here use it, and I know for a fact Callum Kerrigan doesn't. So Callum, get to it. Coach Dave is one of the great partners we have here at RCI, and not only do they have setups, they have great coaching tools and just sort of tools in general to look at your lap time, get data, and figure out how to get quicker. Because after all, faster lap times do begin with Delta. Some of our other partners, Ready Set Sim. If you're looking for a new, it's a DNF for Callum Kerrigan. After that, I think he pulled into his pit box to see how long that repair was. He probably saw maybe a 90-second repair bill and just decided it is not worth continuing because I will finish at the end of the race. So unfortunate for him, but not unfortunate for you if you're looking for new sim setup over at Ready Set Sim. Their RSS Rig Builder is a wonderful tool for building the setup of your dreams, or more realistically, of your budget. When it comes to the direct drive hardware you might be thinking about getting, might I recommend our partners over at Moser Racing. Their stuff is phenomenal. Prices glorious. The quality of it is unbelievable as well. They have fantastic racing sim gear that they're adding to all the time. They have trucking gear, and they have their ever expanding inventory of flight sim gear as well. If you're looking for deals on games, whether it's racing sims or something to sit on your couch and play in a little bit more of a relaxed fashion, head over to Green Man Gaming. They always have such good deals going on, regularly checking on their site personally, because I don't like paying full price for things, and when there's a deal to be had, Green Man Gaming is a wonderful place to go. And speaking of deals, we have a deal with our partners over at Pimax. If you're looking for the latest and greatest for virtual reality hardware, they are the place to go. We have a discount code in the link below, and sprinkle a couple of pennies into the RCI buckets and save you a couple of pennies as well on some of the best resolution and best quality headsets around. And we started with Raphael Huell when I started speaking, and now we're ending with Raphael Huell on the back of Richard Whittle. Yet again, Adam, they are running out of laps if he wants to get ahead, so maybe it is time to start thinking about saving a little bit extra, getting that edge in the pit stop.
You absolutely want to be doing that. And I think that a lot of drivers do need to be thinking about that as well, because the likes of Martin Vasily and, unfortunately, due to an incident, Milan Madavecka have gone into the pit lane pretty early. What kind of advantage will they have, with come 20 minutes left to go? I know these guys, maybe a little bit further up, will have a big opportunity to shorten their stop, but I just wonder, Martin Vasily doing 1:30.4 at the minute. That is a really positive time to be doing, keeping yourselves in the low kind of 1:30s, whilst everyone in between Verdeno, Andrisha and George Barr, they're doing kind of mid 1:30s. They're ranging from the 30.5 to 30.7. If you'll manage to keep that relatively low, maybe around the 30.3, 30.4, maybe even 30.2 if you can, that's going to be really promising for a lot of the guys around here. But it's just kind of being able to get that time out of your race car with the conditions that you have at the minute. Grip, in terms of the temperature, it's not looking too bad at the minute. The train has not arrived. But again, I will kind of hold out my hopes on that one. There's a good potential that we might get it within the last 5 minutes. In comes Christopher Strapen. Out goes Verstappen. Out goes what seems to be Martin Lorenk. The number 7 is also out there of Thomas Kohlberg. He's just leaving the pit lane as well. And that is a very, very kind of lucky moment for Thomas Kohlberg, because he's not going to be stuck behind the Lexus set of Christopher Strapen. Who's that coming out of the pit lane? That seems to be Martin Vesely. So on the cold tyres, Thomas Kohlberg will just defend, and all 4 tyres for Kohlberg on toward the exit of the 2 and on towards turn number 3. Will Martin Vesely be able to get that inside line? He absolutely does, but Kohlberg is able to just etch ahead, and that is going to be massive in the fight here.
I know, because I just showed you that he had said he took all 4 tires, but that is not the pace of a car that is on 4 new tires. I'm thinking that Thomas Kohlberg may have decided to not put on freshies, because his pace coming out of pit lane was that matching Martin Vaselli, and he should be going about 4 miles an hour coming out of the blanket. So maybe we're being lied to by the system just a bit. But Manguin in the wingless Peugeot will take the lead of this race. He's saved enough to do that extra lap, and it will pay dividends in the pit stop. But I obviously don't expect him to come out in the lead once he goes down pit lane. But a great effort from him to fuel save to this level. LMU it pays off so much when you fuel save. You almost have to do it. Unless you are just out and out the quickest human being around, fuel saving is pretty much necessary. And maybe you can get a free screenshot of you in the lead if you do it well enough, as Manguin has done. And we'll say, Adam, you absolutely called it in the for the LMGT3 lead. You said, "Oh, maybe they're going to pit together." Well, they absolutely did. Lorenk and Verstappen were side by side in pit lane, and it actually seems that that Martin Lorenk took a bit of extra fuel, maybe an extra % or 2, thinking that maybe he'll need it, and it's possible that may have been why his stop was a bit longer than his rival. But the last man standing who has yet to pit, or one of the last men standing, 0.8%, as he's getting ready to come down pit lane, judged to perfection. I was saying maybe he backed off of his fuel save, but he had enough to do the extra lap, just enough. 0.4%, an aggressive line into pit lane, but he's made it safe and sound. He can get a fresh, 40, 50 odd % of virtual energy from his side and head back onto the race. Still, Adam trying to make up for the early mistakes.
The pit stop's getting very active here. 19 minutes left to go of this race. Zeno Andresha will take over the race lead, and there's going to be a lot of potential overtaking opportunities here. Let's have a look through. We're seeing that Lexus of what's going to be Christopher Strapen and Milan van der Wecker in ninth now, as he's going to overtake Billy Octane, who's just sitting in the pit lane as well. Pass their way through, and that's going to be Roussier. I was very, very worried about what Lexus that was going to be. It's not one of the leading Lexuses. It's the back marker one that's been around about 5 separate times. Let's see if it's one of those kind of on the curb ones. Doesn't take the curb. Takes curb one. Okay. Oh.
It's a bit of a lazy spin. But I think it was him. He dipped his tire into the grass. His inside tire probably was coming onto throttle as well. And it was just enough to upset these cars. And it's not been Roussier's day, let's say, a bit off the pace in qualifying and maybe still finding their footing. They are new to the multi-sprint series, so it could be a bit new as well still to Le Mans Ultimate. But I always say it is a heck of a way to try to learn a sim racing with the likes of some of the fastest around, and always worthy of praise. And this is the replay between Thomas Kauberg and Martin Vaselli. Is this where he finds the opportunity, sneaks up the inside of the final corner? No, there wasn't quite space. Kauberg tried to slam the door, and it's really sketchy of coming back around. George Barr almost met the rear right of the Peugeot, but that's a bit of a contentious one for between Kauberg and yeah, I don't know. I think maybe a steward's inquiry might come round for that, as the final car comes in and out of the pit lane. Richard Whittle saved enough to do 2 extra laps of fuel, so the saving savior for today is Richard Whittle. We have on screen for the first time tonight the new Peugeot, the old Peugeot, and I apologize. My co-commentator said he was stepping away. Totally didn't see it, so that's why. It's not Adam's fault, everyone. It's mine. But briefly having both Peugeots on the screen at the same time, and I was wondering how things were going for Joe Dauber. We hadn't seen him in a while after his early race issues, but well, he's up now to the back of Fabian Schmidberger, who's really fallen away as the race has progressed. Here comes the leader of Zeno Van Drisha on the back of their battle. Probably not going to involve himself with them too much, but Dauber looking for a top 5 after pretty much starting this race, Adam, about 9 seconds off the back of P8.
It's been a tough one. I think for a lot of drivers, they'll walk away from this race, thinking, I should have had more from this race, and they've just got to kind of take it and kind of move on, because remember, we have one more race you can watch next week, same time, same place here on RCI at 7 p.m. We'll have the final race next week at Sakir International Circuit, the Bahrain, the classic season ender for the World Endurance Championship. There will also be the final round of the season 5 of the Multi-Sprint Championship, so be on the lookout for that on our YouTube channel, on our Instagram page, on our X page, and more so our Twitch as well, which is also, you can go and visit and get a notification from there. Joe Dauber not able to overtake Fabian Schmidberger in his Mercedes AMG. They exit turn number 1. Fabian Schmidberger at the moment just kind of racing for pride. At this moment in time, the championship will go in the way of Martin Loring, who is still sitting 1.2 seconds behind Christopher Straben. He managed to close that gap down by 0.8 of a second the last time that I looked, but it seems to be just expanding and getting bigger. Then it goes and shrinks once again. But Martin Loring, we know, has got a lot of pace under his buckles. So will he be able to use that within the last 5 minutes of this one? But this is the main battle we're looking at for now, because Joe Dauber is looking to try and make yet another place here with the Inception liveried McLaren of Fabian Schmidberger, feeling a lot of pressure in this NMGT3 class.
Yeah, he's got the big gawping monochromatic AMG in his mirrors, and Fabian Schmidberger is not a driver to really crack under pressure. We were given a great example of that throughout this race, sort of, maybe falling off the pace towards the end of the first stint. And we're hearing that Aiden Smith in the Lamborghini, or not the Lamborghini, I'm calling everything a Lamborghini tonight. I'm really not sure why. I think I've just been dreaming about Lamborghinis too much. In the Valkyrie, he's DNF'd, unfortunately, in the closing minutes of the race. It was a pleasure to have him on track. Never a bad thing to have one extra V12 roaring down Fuji Speedway. Is going to be a late move from Joe Dauber. He's thinking about it. He sort of got his nose in there just about, but super, super close, super well judged. Maybe forcing Schmidberger off just a tad, but it's not going to be a fight that goes quietly into the night for these two. It is for bragging rights over other. It is for championship points. They are pretty much racing for best of the rest at this juncture. And speaking of the championship elect, Martin Lawrence, I'm sure I'm glad he's found a sparring partner this round. Having talked to him a fair bit, having watched him a lot, he's one who's known for running away with it when it comes to GT racing. And I'm sure as frustrating as maybe it's been for him to be staring at the back of a car all race, I'm sure he's had an absolutely stellar time. You can see Dauber here really trying to put the pressure on Fabian Schmidberger now, sort of putting his car into positions where, hey, look in your mirrors. Hey, I'm here. Hey, your radar's lighting up. Ooh, I'm going to come get you. So, third sector, it's all about this next corner. It's all about setting up the final corner as jump scare, Martin Vaselli comes through in his Ferrari. Maybe that's why Dauber was taking a bit of an alternate line, and I think it messed Fabian Schmidberger up just a tad having that Ferrari come through. You could see it's going the way of Dauber, but I don't think it's going to stay that way for long. The gap starts opening back up. The missile that is the McLaren, Adam, just does not look like an easy car to overtake this evening.
No, the McLarens have been really strong in their straight line, and I don't know what they have had for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, if they've even had dinner, but it seems to have worked really well for the McLaren. It doesn't seem to be a car that gets used a lot in LMU, a lot in the real life kind of World Endurance Championship WEC as well. It's a really, really kind of neat car to have, one that you can really, really work with. That is going to be, I believe, Marco Badowski slicing his way up the inside. There's going to be contact, and that sees the wingless Peugeot of Manguin go round. And these are very, very unfortunate in that one, with that kind of his own kind of wrongdoing here on board with Manguin. I think he just won't forget that wasn't there. But I will say there was a very much slowed down there was a Cadillac, a Badowski.
Yeah, we've sort of, you can see yet again, he's going for a gap. He's like, oh, maybe I can make it past Dauber, but it was always going to end up closing down. He hits the AMG and the Peugeot. It's the old and the new coming together in not the prettiest fashion in the final moments here at Fuji, but one thing that hasn't changed and will never change for as long as time goes on, these two are going to keep fighting. It's not as close as it's been at the end of the race, and I think come the second stint, come the older tires later into the race, track temp maybe has dropped just a tad. It's going back the way of Christopher Schreppen, the man that has been poised to get this race done. But unfortunately, I guess for his sake, whether he or not he's been able to make the full season, he hasn't won a race yet. So these points might push him closer to second, but not going to be worth a championship. But Smits and Lawrence just come together in a glorious multi-class kind of way. Hey, get out of my way. No, you. Yeah, they both made it around the other side safely. Hey, Adam, the trio of Lexi are back together again.
Dude, that's going to be a photo for to go on the wall, I think, of the Lexus HQ. There is Dion Schmitz going past, and I think he'll be happy with tonight's race, finishing second for Toyota at kind of their home event. You see all a lot of sponsor boards around for TGR. Right on board here with what seems to be the Lexus of Roussier. Will he hold up the leader? Just that little bit he does. That's going to be crucial here for Christopher Streppen, because he's now got a very, very threatening Martin Laurent behind him. The white bannered kind of Lexus of Verstappen then gets let through here. What about Laurent? Will he have to challenge? And I think this could potentially see the end of Laurent's challenge for the lead, because there goes Martin Vaselli, third place car in the hypercar class, and he's still stuck there behind Rouchier. That's going to be a horrible moment. He's lost 2/10 there. That could be extended to 3, maybe even 4/10 of a second. He's gonna have to go down the inside here, down at the chicane. He's gonna be later on the brakes. The floor just at the front of the car just dropping as he heads down the hill. But he's managed to unleash himself. But is that wrong point or too late to kind of call this one? Now see what seemed to be George Barr now approaching that little fight back with Joe Dorber.
Yeah, that was not something you really like to see. It was sort of unequal treatment from a back marker. He let the race leader through very quickly and maybe dawdled just a little bit, letting Laurent through, and he also spun right after all that happened. And here's Dauber trying, holy moly, around the outside of turn 10. We've seen many try, but none have been able to execute it so far tonight. But Joe Dauber setting it up on Fabian Schmidberger for a while, and here's Richard Whittle to put a wedge between these two, and that was a late-breaking move, but a very, very impressive one to stick around the outside. Both drivers giving each other equal space, and super respectful, super hard racing. We may be coming to a close here at Fuji, but we still have moves to be made. I do feel like, though, that Fabian Schmidberger might be closer than we expect come the end of this straight. Maybe didn't get the best exit, but not close enough. But it was still an exceptional move for Joe Dauber to get back through Fabian Schmidberger, get back up into 5th position. This is 5th for the hypercars. It's Thomas Kauberg and the hard-charging Milan van der Vecken, who just a couple of laps ago put in the fastest lap of the race. And this was the man to beat, quite frankly. But coming into, well, the Lexus we were just talking about earlier, that Lexus is not getting particularly great press this afternoon or this evening. But after hitting the Lexus in this exact corner, Milan van der Vecken had to take an early pit stop, and oh, it's a bit of a commentator's curse, because Milan van der Vecken, just as I was talking him up, poised for 5th, is going to spin it and drop himself down to 7th position. And Adam, I think it's best I stop talking before anything else goes wrong.
It's been an unfortunate day there for Milan van der Vecken. I don't really know what else you can kind of say after that little incident. Well, I say little incident. Was it really a little incident? No, because he's dropped so much time down to what seems to be 7th place in the standings now, which is going to be massively unfortunate for him. He now drops outside of the 100-point zone. Our former race leader really going to be living kind of the nightmare that was this race. He will try and come back here in Sakia, but I don't know how much you can really kind of say, really. There's not really too much. There's still going to be 4 in contention if all holds firm in Bahrain. But if Smits gets overtaken by Martin Vesely, that would be probably the biggest change to create in the standings. But then that may potentially see, from my calculations, Smits would be potentially right on the fringes. He'll be on 30 points, which is the maximum amount of points you can get for a race win. Yeah, it would be massive to try and win the championship from that kind of reach. But Van der Vecken not over just yet. He needs to get past Mount Gwyn to withstand any hope, kind of chances of taking the hypercar championship, because all he needs now.
This is almost like the battle of the missiles here. The Peugeot, the wingless Peugeot, which it just looks so awkward. The fact that Peugeot developed a hypercar without a wing, first of all, thought, yep, that's a good idea, and second of all, it actually turned out to not be a horrific disaster, as impressive on its own. But the the Valkyrie is known for its straight line speed. The wingless Peugeot was known for its straight line in the early days of Le Mans Ultimate. And Milan, I think if he just sort of keeps it all together here, doesn't really make mistakes, he's just going to have that pace advantage over Manguin. But he doesn't have a whole lot of time to do it. Maybe 2 laps remaining as Martin Lorick is charging back up to the behind of Christopher Streppen. That fight not over with as well. And Valkyrie having a sniff. His wipers on for some reason, maybe a bit frantic in the cockpit, hitting a bit too many buttons. But you can see he's really pushing hard to get him. It's raining. That's why his wiper's on, because there's a little bit of drizzle on the screen. So the rain finally coming. Too little too late to make any sort of difference other than to just scare the drivers. That was a really good exit for Milan out of the final corner. A little bit of rain to make it just feel a bit more dramatic. Manguin trying to go as defensive as he can, but it doesn't make a difference. He's just going to speed through V12 shock and awe, giving him a little bit of assistance there, and we're going to come into the braking zone, and I'm sure Milan van der Vecken has this one wrapped up. He does just about. So recovery for him from his spin moments ago, and a couple of points at him to add to his championship contention.
That would be a massive kind of relief. My brain is currently just doing a little bit of maths. I wasn't the best in maths, but I can confirm that Milan van der Vecken just kind of limited the damage in that one. He'll be minus 16 to the back of Zeno van Driessen, who leads the championship at the live standings. As far as my calculations are aware, 109 points for the Belgian driver in the BMW. He's on pretty great form as of recent. Every single time he's entered an event, 100% chance of a podium, and he was going to try and end that, end the season with continuing that record. What about Christopher Streppen and Martin Lorick? That battle closes once again to half a second, and Martin Lorick will be looking at this thinking, this is mine, this is clearly mine, but we're going to be going on to the last lap very, very soon. It all depends kind of where Zeno van Driessen is for this moment in time. Can Martin Lorick do any kind of tricky skills that he's got up his sleeve potentially? Could he potentially do absolutely anything to try and get past his teammate? Maybe send him a little bit wide, but of course with the rain coming down, it's about absolutely trying to send it as hard as you can, keeping the tyres in range with a little bit of heat on them to be able to withstand the kind of the droplets that are hitting the circuit.
Yeah, and I'm, as looking at the virtual energies I'm known to do, I love the sort of nature of fuel strategy in LMU as we begin the final lap. You can see Verstappen has plenty of fuel, and Martin Lorick, who took a bit extra, also still has plenty. So, one could argue if he didn't long fill and sort of short filled a bit more, maybe this fight would have been over with in pit lane as a bit of a Cadillac jump scare. So now we're getting attributed to Marco Badowski coming on through these two, not getting in the way. Badowski, of course, running in P12. It was going really well for him, and then it started going a bit not well as this fight is running out of opportunities. Is Martin Lorick. We saw him go for a mega move into turn 10 a little while ago. It didn't exactly go well. The leader is in the background. You can see Zeno van Driessen. So there is an opportunity, if Zeno doesn't get by, that these two have to do another lap. But I would imagine Zeno's going to get by on the straight before they get there. This is really the last opportunity for Martin Lorick, but I don't think he's going to get it. Here comes Zeno van Driessen. Maybe a bit of a bump draft, maybe a bit of favoritism. No, certainly not. He's going to make him, he's going to let him fight. What a guy, Zeno van Driessen. He's going to give him another racing lap to sort this one out. He's in the perfect position to see that. And he said, you know what? Go on, boys. You guys are having a good time. But Zeno Vandrisha is going to crawl across the finish line in a sort of sideways fashion. Takes victory here at Fuji Speedway. And what's become a bit of a theme is drivers driving backwards, which I have to say, I did in fact do that last week. I felt I wanted to join the crew of people driving backwards across the circuit. Here's Smits in the Toyota. I feel like breaking the curse a bit or continuing to break the curse. He comes across at second. Martin Vaselli just behind takes the bottom step of the podium. It'll be George Barr coming up next. You can see Rebecca cross the line in P3 just then. At Thomas Cowberg going Beyblade in the background. Bars come through. Everybody, once they cross the line, ultimately, let's turn this thing into a demolition derby. And it's the final moments, the dying fight. And I'm wondering, maybe Martin Lorick he ran out of gas. Not in the race car, but just he ran out of his own personal skill to keep it with Christoph Verstappen, a fight that's kept us enthralled and entertained this entire hour and 20-minute race. These two, maybe the furthest they're going to be all race. Martin Lorick drops it in the final corner. If there was an opportunity, it's not going to be had for him. I don't think these two were really further apart than they are right now this entire race. This is about the biggest gap it's ever been. Christoph Verstappen is going to cross the line to take victory in LMGT3. And Martin Lorick, it might be his second place, might be a bit of disappointment. However, the championship goes to him nonetheless, Adam.
I think I think every single round he will be happy with, unless DNFs, unfortunately, in Bahrain. Of course, he won't really give a hoot about that. He's already kind of backed up the title. A lot of donuts happening in this one. You know, I don't blame the drivers whatsoever. They've been absolutely incredible with what they've done tonight, putting on an absolute performance. It's showing the rain didn't kind of come down heavy in those seemingly last 3 minutes, but I will say I did call it. I did say it would happen within the last 5 minutes. You're seeing how evident it is there. It just didn't kind of lash it down like I potentially predicted it to. But that kind of sums up the race. And another very entertaining one here on RCI. Jack Mace, I think we've walked away once again with another absolute banger of a race here in Fuji.
Oh, absolutely. Admittedly, maybe slightly disappointed that there wasn't that weather element, but I can say for just about certain that everybody who was actually on circuit driving the car this week, they're glad to be without the rain. And the most glad of them all, sort of maybe putting a 2 to 3 fingers on the championship trophy, is Zeno Vandrisha, who came across the line in first place here at Fuji. Dion Smits drove a stellar race and wasn't quite able to get close enough. Martin Vaselli getting third, having to work for it in the early stages over Thomas Cowberg. George Barr, we didn't really see a whole lot of him, but he just shows that drive a consistent race, don't really make a whole lot of mistakes, and well, you'll get a good result. So fourth place, I believe, is either his season best or maybe equaling his season best so far. Thomas Cowberg finishes in fifth, and Milan van der Vecken, what could have been? What if that Lexus wasn't there on the exit of turn 14? What if I didn't have to, take that pit stop and be stationary for damage? It's a recovery to sixth for him, but more in the tank for sure, and makes his hopes at the championship just that little bit more difficult. Mailman Guin on his debut, taking the old girl out of the shed, the wingless Peugeot. He finishes seventh. Martin Mares finishes in eighth. Billy Octane recovers back up to ninth after being backwards once or twice in the opening stages. And Raphael Hu doesn't quite do his qualifying result justice as he finishes it in 10th. Richard Whittle, he did outsave the rest of the field, but maybe not getting the result he was hoping for because of it. He finishes in 11th. Marco Badowski disappointing Ted Edwards more than words could explain. I'm half joking, but I know that Ted's sad. He's actually crying right now. Badowski finishes in 12th in the Cadillac. Rodriguez Partez crosses the line in 13th with Aiden Smith, Callum Kerrigan, and Jacob Tucky all DNFing at some point in the race, having to retire because of damage or what have you. In LMGT3, it did come down to the final moments. Christoph Verstappen and Martin Lorick being given one more lap to sort out everything that they needed to sort. And well, the time says it all. Martin ran out of it at the end. He just didn't quite have the pace. And Christoph Verstappen takes his first victory of the season. And Martin Lorick, knowing what it feels to not stand on the top step of the podium, Wojtek Rybecki finishes in third. Rimvidis Momkis fourth. Dauber recovering to fifth. Fabian Schmidberger maybe needs to work a bit on the mid to late race pace because really had some good stuff in the beginning and just sort of ran out of it in the end. Daniel Hearn in the lone Porsche finishes in seventh. Emo Platt in eighth. Mark Rousser in ninth. And Paul Schmidt rounds out the top 10 in LMGT3. And that is the top 10 because there was only 10 that started and not quite all finished in this race. And Adam, any final words before we close this thing out? I think it was as you said, a really great race here at Fuji Speedway.
I definitely think that there is a lot of battles during this race. Maybe not quite as entertaining up at the front because I think we had a pretty clear lead, and unfortunately, Milan van der Becker had kind of taken out. Unfortunately, not by his own accord. Bahrain is something to really be kind of watched upon. I think is Bahrain has got a lot of really tricky corners. A lot of long straights, probably even longer than the ones around here. Maybe arguably, or I might be chatting absolute honk. Because you got that main straight, you got that back straight, you got the second straight up towards turn number 4. You got kind of the straight kind of opposite the main straight. So kind of what I'm initially thinking. But that's going to be really a massive eye opener. We've got 4 hypercars in the title battle. 27 points between the top 4, 30 for a win. So I think what you should do is keep an eye out on all of our social medias at Racing Club International, and you'll be able to see when that finale is. It is next week at 7 p.m. Don't miss it because you'll be missing an absolute thriller of a title battle, I feel.
Oh, I'm excited every week. I'm excited for every season finale. I'm extra excited for this one because it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3 drivers. We got 4 who are in contention in the top class, and it's going to be close. Hopefully, it'll be a great fight and a great way to top off this season 5 of multi sprint. That's not the only thing we got going on here at RCI. We also have the return of the Monday Championship on ACC. This is the penultimate championship we will be hosting. We got one more after this one. So if you want one more opportunity or 2 more opportunities to show your stuff in ACC here on RCI, you're running out of time. We did just have round 1. It's the Cup Car Cup, or as I've been calling it, the Cup, with the 488 Challenge, the 992 Porsche Cup Car, and the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2s. It was a great time around Kyalami. Super fun to watch. Round 2 will be coming up next week at COTA, a driver circuit. Not all the drivers love it, but I'm sure we will have a good race nonetheless. So either sign up for that. There are slots still available, though you may not get to drive the car you want to. You may be forced into a certain car. Cannot guarantee that. Drive the 488s. They're having a grand old time. I recommend if you want to go wheel to wheel with people. They were having the time of their lives at Kyalami in round 1, and I think that's the class to watch and the class to join. Of course, as Adam said, we'll be here next week showing off the finale. There are still a couple of slots available if you want to show up for the finale. Maybe give the LMGT3 some love. They seem a bit lacking, but not lacking in action. And one final thank you to our partners being Coach Shave Delta, Ready Set Sim, Moza Racing, Pimax, Greenman Gaming, and of course, a special thank you to Motorsport UK for having us as a recommended community. Join the Discord. Check us out on SimGrid for all of our event stuff. If you're interested in joining the broadcast team, we have slots, we have people. We'd love to have you. If you're looking, check the staff vacancies channel on the Discord. That is going to do it from me. I've been Jack Mays, joined by the ever so lovely Adam Reed in the comms booth, and Ted Edwards has given us the sights and the sounds here throughout the season. So, from us here at RCI, we hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to seeing you for the finale. Maybe some of you will join the grid. I don't know. Not a request. Stay safe. Enjoy your weekend, and I hope to see you all soon.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss the sky.